What's up, YouTube? It's your main man, AB the Hero, back again with another video. And we got a lot to talk about today, man. We got so much that I was going to make a video. I was going to make a quick video, like audio. And I said, you know what? We need to hop on a live stream and we need to have this conversation live. And I need to get I want to hear what y'all think on this topic as well. So what we're going to talk about today is your boy, RJ Hampton. He is the number 5 player in the class of 2019. Is projected to be the 6th overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft. College offers from damn near every school you can imagine. Everybody wants this dude's services in the NCAA next season. And today, as one of the last 5-star recruits still out there who has not committed, went on ESPN's Get Up this morning and announced to the world what he will be doing next season. Now, I will start and say this. Over the weekend and towards the end of last week, there was a lot of hoopla about LaMelo Ball and him potentially going to play ball in New Zealand because this team over there, the Breakers, said, you know, hey, we got some global news jumping off here next week. And it was a controversy because some folks was thinking it was Melo, some folks was thinking it was Carmelo, but nobody in the entire world, I'm sure, was guessing, oh, it's gonna be RJ Hampton, who's playing for gonna forgo the NCAA and all of these blue blood offers, and is gonna play for the New Zealand Breakers. But that is exactly what happened. On the Get Up this morning, RJ Hampton said that he is not going to college. He's going to chase that bag and that professional experience, and he's going to the NBL, a league that is based out of Australia, but will be playing for the New Zealand Breakers. New Zealand has some good sports. That's where the New Zealand All Blacks is, one of the most winning franchises in the entire world. It's a rugby club. But so this to me is epic, man. I'm in 100% support of it. I love when I see these young dudes breaking the mold, doing something different, challenging the system, and like creating other opportunities, I feel like, for other players. Now, some of the interesting stuff about this particular situation is RJ Hampton just a few months ago was classified as a junior. So he was going to have to come back and go to high school for one more year, his senior year, then have to go to college for 1 year. But a couple months ago, he put a thing in play where he reclassified himself to be a senior, entered the class of 2019, removed himself from the class of 2020, and is now in a position to effectively go from high school to the pros. One and done effectively from the same amount of time that he would be potentially entering the NBA. He will still enter the NBA 1 year earlier than he would if he would have took the traditional path. To me, that's a genius move. The reclassify, give it a couple months, let people think that you playing the role of the normal system, and you're gonna go to college, so people ain't gonna hate on it right away. Because I'm gonna tell you this: if he had have decided that he was going to leave school early to go pro initially, I'm telling you that it would have been a lot of haters on that, because we've seen somebody do that most recently, and they didn't really like it. But what he did is said, I'm going to reclassify, I'm going to graduate early, and then I'm going to go to college, have people on that way for a little bit, then changed his mind and decided, hey, you know what, actually I'm going overseas to make this big bag. Because so I think that that's a dope move, and I think that it's a dope move for him, and I think that this is a opportunity for him to just really create some history, because one of the big things that they're giving him credit for is being somebody. So one of the things that they're giving him credit for is being somebody who, like, without all of these other situations and circumstances, is choosing to go overseas first. So a lot of guys who have done it before have had things going on, whether or not it be eligibility issues, primarily eligibility issues, not allowing them to go to the NCAA. So then as a backup plan, they take this overseas route. This is a guy who is not going to the NCAA, and then as a primary plan, taking the overseas route. So that's a bit different. And to me, this is a beautiful situation because I believe that it's a trickle-down effect, and it'll move the needle forward for other players who are looking for an opportunity to pursue a professional career without having to go the NCAA route and without having to I think, obviously, this guy's 2 years, he was supposed to is a number 5 player in the class of 2019. So his talent level and ability just off that rating speaks for itself. So, but I think that when these top tier guys make these type of decisions, it opens up the door for some lower tier guys to have better opportunities. So when you have a guy like RJ Hampton who decides to go play in the NBL, I think that for one, it opens up a scholarship for somebody who potentially wasn't going to get one. And then also it opens up the door for more American players to be taking these opportunities going overseas. And then when you have guys who are more willing to do that, then it opens up the incentive for those overseas teams to look over here for those guys as opposed to somebody from here having to reach out over there first. So that's all beautiful to me. But I think that one of the interesting things when I was watching his, I'll call it a press conference earlier, or his segment on Get Up on ESPN, was he definitely got a lot of credit for being a trendsetter in certain ways. But what I think that they definitely overlooked some of the similarities between his situation and LaMelo Ball's situation. I think that there's a lot of similarities there, and there's also some differences there. And I think that there are some pros and cons. There's some pros and cons there that are that each one of their styles or the routes that they've taken to basically get to the same spot, because it is as of right now, we know that LaMelo has 2 different opportunities on the table. He's looking at playing in China and looking at playing in Australia. At this point, LaMelo has not necessarily said, I'm going to do either one of those yet. So it's not confirmed that LaMelo is going to Australia at this moment. Now, I do believe that with this guy RJ Hampton going to the NBL, it does incentivize LaMelo Ball to go to the NBL as well, because there's some gifts and some curses with both of these 2 top premier players playing in the same league. Obviously, like Edwin A is saying here in the comments, you have the opportunity for a head-to-head matchup. Now, one of the biggest excuses that people gave about the JBA International League was there's no scouts and nobody over there checking them out and nobody know what's happening. If you got 2 players who are expected to be drafted in the first round of the NBA going head-to-head, it incentivizes some NBA scouts to get on the plane and get over there and at least go watch that game head-to-head. Now, so that's an incentive there. So there's definitely going to be a lot of foot traffic from scouts and people just all the way around the world heading there to watch those 2 guys play. So it's definitely a lot of clout for the NBL for sure. Some of the things also that I think is interesting, if you look at the trajectory of Melo's career to this point where he is now 1 year outside of the NBA, you see him go to high school for 2 years, basically miss a junior year, and then come back for a senior year stint. Now with this RJ Hampton, with his route, you see him go to high school for 3 years, freshman through junior year, and miss a senior year. Both of these guys are in a similar situation where they will not be able to play in, they won't play in any of these All-American games, the McDonald's, Jordan Brand, obviously for different reasons, because LaMelo, when he came back, they deemed him to be a pro, ineligible for those games. RJ will definitely be a pro at that time and won't be able to play. So they have some similarities in the way that they're moving through their careers and on route to being pros. Now, what I find to be interesting is the differences, right? Is that with RJ, he had the ability to basically, because he reclassified a couple months ago because he realized that his stock at this moment was at an all-time high. For the 2020 class, if he would have stayed in high school, he would have been the number 2 player in the country in that draft. In that class. So he realized after, I think he was at a Nike EYBL camp and just was dominating. So somebody put a bird in his ear. Yo, bro, this is your opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Step on the gas. Now, what we see also is so with that, as soon as he was the hottest, and then he had a blog on USA Today. Let me show y'all this. This is some things that he had going that I feel like, obviously, with his announcement earlier today, is definitely going to draw some attraction and some attention to him. But what I appreciate is he was already moving behind the scenes anyway. Let me pull up over here. And he had a blog going on USA Today's high school page where he was basically documenting his own moves, right? So obviously LaMelo Ball a bit different and had his own basically reality TV show going documenting his moves. But you see that these are two guys who are definitely seem like they're going to be able to benefit from the ability of being pro and making money off their own likeness, right? This RJ guy, I feel like he has something like that in his mindset. And I think that what he's doing is going to create an opportunity for players in the future to, instead of waiting till your junior year, instead of waiting till you right to be able to decide that you're about to go pro, you can make that decision as a freshman and say, there is no way that I'm going to college. I'm going pro no matter what happens. And then you could do like LaMelo basically did and start making money off his likeness through the Big Baller brand and making money off of just being Melo. So that's the dope part there is they're on the, let me pull up my notes back here again. So they are on definitely similar tracks right now and are heading in the right direction. But what I am interested to see is how the media plays this, because when I watched it Get Up today, they really emphasized the fact that RJ, while he was in high school, leaving high school early, they didn't really touch on his reclassification because he is leaving high school early, an entire year early to go pro. I don't think that people really understand how big that is. He's not a senior who is deciding to not go to college. He's a junior who's deciding to skip his senior year and then go pro in Australia, which makes that huge. You know what I'm saying? But we've seen a similar situation with LaMelo Ball, and we've seen the media's reaction to a few different things that he did, and it was less than positive. Him leaving high school initially to go pro in Lithuania was frowned upon. Him coming back to high school and then playing for Spire, dominating his senior year, and then saying, I'm going to go to either China or Australia, was something else that got mixed reviews in the media. I did a video on here where I showed some clips from where Matt Barnes basically went in on LeVar talking about how he was ruining his kids' opportunities and how he was taking the chances from them to do shit like go to the prom or go to playing these All-American games, where you have this guy RJ Hampton who's saying, my dream was never to be a McDonald's All-American. It was to play in the NBA. So I'm doing the best steps to get there. So I'm interested to see if the media will keep the same energy with this situation, because you have a guy who's basically saying the same thing that Melo said when he was 16 years old, leaving high school, and was like, I want to be a pro. Like, obviously the UCLA hype was there, but the ultimate goal was being a professional basketball player. It's the same thing that I heard Jello say when he got touchdown in Lithuania. of like, I just want to be a pro. And then the goal is to hopefully eventually get to the NBA. So I think that this will be interesting to see how this affects the next generation or next crop of players who also who also are coming up behind them and how they make decisions. Because if this is becoming an opportunity for these younger guys to say, you know what, actually I know that as a junior, I want to go pro and play overseas. I'm not going to go to college for 1 year. I believe that you'll start to see more guys put themselves in positions to potentially reclassify and graduate, because this is some tad bit of insider information that I would give you. That is the number one reason why we've seen LaMelo Ball return to high school as opposed to go to a professional team overseas and play out his final 2 years to get to the NBA. Obviously, like, people will say, well, he was trying to, you know what I'm saying, he wanted to, what is the thing that they said that once? Wanted to play with his peer, all of that. I don't know about none of that. The McDonald's All-American games, nah. What happened was, when they were overseas and they were with the JBA and he was out of high school, ESPN and all of these websites took him off all of the top 200s. They took him off all of the draft boards. They took him off everything. And the word around the league and the word around all of these different circles was that because he didn't complete high school in that traditional way, that they didn't want to create this precedent where if you're a high school guy, you could just drop out of high school and then go pro, and then we'll take you in the NBA. They were not prepared to then take a high school dropout in the NBA at that time. But what we see RJ Hampton do and beat the system is reclassify, graduate a year early, and then basically take the same steps that we seen LaMelo take a couple years ago. Both getting them to this same place right now. Now, what I will say is, this is a bad look for developmental basketball in the USA. To have 2 first-round draft picks not be able to go to college, or to have to not be able to go to college, or opt to not go to the NCAA, and then also to opt to not go to the G League's new developmental league that they were having, says a lot about the trust that people have for the U.S. basketball developmental system. They don't. There's no trust for it. Either you go to college and you see you got guys like Zion Williamson who benefit, and his stock, which was hard to do, was raised extra. His stock was raised a lot, you know what I'm saying, by his time at Duke. But when you think about how much money he probably made himself by going to Duke and having such a fantastic year, you also think about how much money he cost himself by being in the system where he could not make money off of his likeness. Because while he probably going to get a hell of a shoe deal on the next level, there's definitely money that he could be making, that he could have made over the last 12 months that he missed out on, that would have been even a bigger look for him. Then you see this G League thing, and they're paying you $125,000 for 5 months of basketball, which on the surface, that sounds amazing. But we seen Darius Baisley go get $1 million for a 5-month internship with New Balance for not playing any basketball at all. To go sit in the office, and I watched a video where he's shooting shooting paper balls in the trash can as part of his internship. So you see the developmental system there is flawed, and then you look at these guys who are going to go overseas and play basketball and make millions of dollars. I think I seen somewhere where Brandon Jennings, when he went overseas, he made $1.5 million. We seen Emmanuel Mudiay, Terrence Ferguson, and all these guys go overseas and make money for 1 year, and that far exceeds what the G League is about to pay. And then every time somebody talks about the G League, you hear them talk about, like, if you go in there, you're not going to actually get an opportunity to develop. You're probably going to take a step back because it's such a dog-eat-dog mentality, which speaks to our issue, what I feel like is one of the main issues that we have with developmental basketball in the United States, is that we are only looking for guys who have it right now. And we're not focused on the guys who potentially could have it, the guys who have a shot at it. And so right now, if you are basically top 15 in your class, damn near top 20, in your head you feel like I'm going one and done, right? But then we always see these guys, the Russell Westbrooks, the Steph Currys, the Ja Morants, guys who end up going to the NCAA, playing because they need a couple more years of development, go to the NBA, and then become super duper stars. And these were dudes who, when you look at them at this age of 18, 17 years old, you would say, I don't even know if they're going to make the league. And so in our developmental system, we don't pay those kids any attention until they're on top and they're dominating. And where I see from a lot of leagues overseas, and that from traveling around with the JBA USA squad and then talking to people in those organizations, they are obviously always looking for diamonds in the rough, but they're always trying to create the diamond in the rough as well, which what we don't do here. We are, and actually the only people who even investing in young developmental talent in the basketball realm is these private companies, these sneaker brands, right? So you don't really see the NBA and the NCAA and all of these people getting hands-on with young developmental players to kind of push them to the next level. You see them doing that and more initiatives for that on the other side of the world because they're trying to tap into that talent. But here in the United States, we are missing that from our developmental leagues. Now, I do think that this trend is something that international professional hoops should be trying to take advantage of, because what you have is these players here who are now looking as that's actually an option now. We've seen a couple guys successfully leave high school, have 1 year in the overseas somewhere, and come back and get drafted and do well. The more and more we see these top guys do it, I think that these international ball clubs should then be looking for guys to take the next step as well. But I think that they should be looking for guys that are not necessarily one and done, but guys that may need 2 or 3 years to develop, and then before they're ready to play pro basketball in the NBA. I think that if international ball clubs really looked at not the top 50 guys in the United States, but the 100 to 200, and said, you know what, man, we want to give you an opportunity where you could come over here, play for 2 years, and really mature your game, mature as a person, and then put yourself in a great spot to potentially get drafted. I think that will change international hoops as well, because a lot of these different countries have strong structures to help players get better and matriculate through the system. When you look at a guy like Luca Dantas, right? And it's always tough to really break down the road that these like hyper successful people did, like LeBron James. You can't really compare LeBron to everybody else, but we'll use Luca Dantas for this thing. Luca Dantas was playing professional basketball when he was 12. At 12, somebody said, bro, you got something. Why don't you come over here and play pro ball with us? Then he did that. Then once he and also what's your boy Kristaps Porzingis, same thing. But then once he turned 16, then has the opportunity to make a jump to the Euro League, plays there for a couple of years, and then now is in the NBA as the Rookie of the Year. Kristaps Porzingis from Svenborg, Latvia, not Svenborg, Denmark, I'm sorry. It's from Liepāja, Latvia. I was there. I was at his little court and stuff, but same thing. Played for Liepāja, Latvia professionally for a couple of years before making the jump to a EuroLeague squad and then making the jump to the NBA. We have guys who we identify here in the United States at a young age as, yo, you have pro talent. In middle school, you got rankings for middle school players. But what we do is we just feed those guys into the middle school system. And I just watched this clip the other day on ESPN, and it was this dude jumping. I wish I could remember his name, but he basically damn near jumped over somebody's head and threw down a dunk. And then when you looked at the guy he was playing against, was this 5'4" dude who with no real talent and is no real is not at all making the dude who's just jumping all over everybody better. It's the same thing you seen with Zion Williamson. I heard LeBron react to Zion Williamson and kind of give his thoughts on him pre-Duke. And he said you watched him on tape, but he was just playing 5'4" white dudes and was dominating. Whereas in other countries, when we know that you're an elite athlete, you no longer are playing versus these little ass 12-year-old kids. You coming over here and you finna play with these grown ass men, or you finna go play with these 15, 16-year-old hoopers. In the United States, we don't do that, and I think that is one of the things that we're missing out on developmentally. And the truth of the matter is, at this point, we don't have to do that because the top players end up being the cream of all creams. But I feel like if we develop our guys at a younger age, at least we create opportunities for guys to then go play somewhere else on another level in another country, straight out of high school or all of this stuff. This is also one of the reasons why I felt like the JBA was such a great opportunity for these young men, but then also for these international ball clubs to have a way to just tap into the guys who are maybe not like the highest recruited guys in the world here, but definitely dudes who can hoop. When you looked at the JBA and you seen some of the guys on those teams, the Curtis Hollises, the Jarrell Springers, the Dion Lyles, the Nate Morrises, the Neon Wex, the list goes on and on, Jordan Rays, all of these guys who played very high-level basketball, guys who can go down the list of dudes who they were teammates with. When you talk to Curtis Hollis, he'd tell you that he played with Trae Young, Terrence Ferguson, damn near everybody in the whole world head-to-head with those guys. And when you watch him play, you can see it in his game. I feel like those are the dudes who, if we did something different in the United States, we would give those guys a better opportunity to continue to play basketball and to develop, and then to also be able to make some money while they're doing it off of their own likeness. Because one of the things that people do not realize is that if you're a guy, if you think about Duke and Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish, right, these high-profile guys, if they could make money off their likeness, they would be doing really good at Duke. But there's a guy on the end of the bench who, if he could make money also off his likeness, would be doing damn well good also at Duke. I played ball at Iowa State University, but I played football. And I wasn't I wasn't nobody who you heard of. I wasn't no Heisman Trophy candidate or no nothing like that. But if I would have had the opportunity to walk out my door and say, yo, my name as AB, I want to make some money, I would have definitely been able to throw a party or two or something and make a little money just off being AB the hero at that time. But so that is what it is, man. This whole thing is interesting, man. What I will be doing is following up this story with some different videos, because like I said, I want to see the reaction that a lot of these media characters have to this story. And I want to see if they keep the same energy as they did when LaMelo was announcing what he was going to do and how he was going to go pro straight after this year at Spire. And I want to see if they really give him the same respect that, or if they want to give him the same energy, or if they try to look at it differently because there's no LeVar Ball in this RJ Hampton situation. Even though I think that, even though he is going over to this NBL team with his whole family, his mom and his dad and his little brother, and they're going over as a unit, but I'd be interested to see how they play that. And also, man, I think that it's not even that I think that that's a bad thing. I think that is